Senator Fitzpatrick, why do you rise?
Good evening, Madam President.
Good
I was
evening.
wondering if the sponsor would yield for a few questions.
Would the sponsor yield? Senator Addabbo, do you yield?
Yes, Madam
The
President.
sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator Addabbo. My understanding is that this bill is going to prohibit online sweepstakes, games, and revenue from illegal markets. And I was hoping you could clarify for me, through you, Madam President, what illegal markets are you referring to in this bill?
Through you, Madam President, as of now, our state has not legalized online gaming. The legal markets currently are the 7 licensed casinos in New York and any other gaming issue that has been authorized by New York.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to yield? Senator Addabbo, do you continue
Oh,
to
I'm
yield?
sorry, Madam President? Yes, of course.
Senator yields.
So my understanding is that simple digital spin the wheel or bracket style predictors, different things that we might see on our phone might be considered this type of digital online gaming. Is that correct?
There are many forms, Madam President, through you, there are many forms of digital games on your phone. This bill specifically talks about online casino-type games.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to yield? Senator Addabbo?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay. So my understanding is that the enforcement of these provisions is going to be the responsibility of the State Gaming Commission, the State Police, and the Attorney General's office. And I'm wondering how they intend to try to enforce online activity.
Through the issuance of cease and desist orders and other methods that they can use for enforcement.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Oh, sure. Again, through you, Madam President, through cease and desist orders and any other means of enforcement that the Gaming Commission or the Attorney General has at its disposal.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to yield? The sponsor yields.
So would Starbucks, Star Days, McDonald's, Monopoly, Jersey Mike's sports predictor games, or other promotional sweepstakes become illegal on day one?
Madam President, definitely not. This, again, specifically in language, section 912A says casino games, casino-style games, and it's listed in the legislation.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to yield? Yes, the sponsor yields.
The Attorney General already has power to prosecute unlawful gaming. So I'm wondering, in Article 225 of the Penal Law, it already gives the Attorney General broad investigative authority. What does this legislation add to it?
Through you, Madam President, again, what this bill does, it does clarify what is the illegal activity, which is the online gaming casino-type style online gaming.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Yes, Madam President.
So, through you, Madam President, if I could read to you, proposed section 912(2) sub B reads, it shall be unlawful for any applicant, licensed entity, financial institution, payment processor, geolocation provider, gaming content supplier, platform provider, or media affiliate to support the operation, conduct, or promotion of online sweepstakes games within the state of New York. My question for you is, are we turning credit unions and banks into law enforcement agencies?
Through you, Madam President, no. Again, this is an illegal activity, and no entity should facilitate an illegal activity. So if there is a credit union who is promoting, conducting, or operating an illegal activity, such as these online sweepstakes casinos, that would be the only way that they would be, again, given a fine. But no, we are not asking them to enforce.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Yes, Madam
Continue
President.
to yield? The sponsor yields.
So, continuing on that line, though, if a company is using their bank to collect payments from online gaming, aren't you putting the responsibility on the financial institution to know what all of their customers are doing? The same way that we don't check when Macy's is charging a credit card for purchase of merchandise, we don't expect the bank to know what Macy's is doing. Now you're putting that burden on these other vendors.
Through you, Madam President, no, the idea is, again, through federal law and state law, actually, we're not asking them to take a background check on their entities. The bottom line is, if they knowingly take the money that was, again, in part of them, the credit union or the lending institution, financial institution, if they are, again, part of an illegal activity that they know of to promote, conduct, or operate, that's the only time they'd be in trouble. So we're not looking to them do a background check on their clients or anyone who's opening up a new account. No. But if the entity opens up a new account, or I should say a customer opens up a new account, and they give a free coin, or they give some free kind of way to use the online illegal activity, then they are in trouble, because they're, again, once again, they're facilitating an illegal activity in New York.
To continue to yield.
To continue
Yes,
to
Madam
yield.
President.
The sponsor yield.
So through you, Madam President, by the example that was just given, though, you're expecting a financial institution to know what their customer is doing. And you're putting a burden on the financial institution to know whether or not their customer is giving away a free coin with something that they're promoting.
President, you know, not that they know that the entity is, that they are. If the institution is giving it away, right.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Yes, Madam President.
Does the bill guarantee notice and an opportunity to cure before a gaming commission levies a violation? Because my understanding is the violations can be up to $100,000.
It's true, anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Yes, Madam
Continue to
President.
yield. The sponsor yield.
Okay, so under that violation, 10 to 100,000, will there be some opportunity for a person who's been cited for violating this provision? Will they be given some warning such that, let me rephrase it, you're going to get a 10,000 violation and work your way up to the 100,000 so that you're going to know before you get to the 100,000, or is the 100,000 potentially the fee that could be charged for a first violation?
You, Madam President, the due process of the Attorney General and the Gaming Commission would give them a warning. They would be reached out to. Yes.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
The sponsor yield.
Yes, Madam
Sponsor
President.
yield.
So who has primary responsibility, the Gaming Commission or the Attorney General? What if there's a conflict between those entities?
Madam President, it's in cooperative effort with each other. So Gaming Commission, Attorney General's office, they do speak to each other. State law enforcement as well.
To continue to yield.
Yes, Madam President.
So if Apple or Google hosts an app and somewhere offers a dual currency promotion, is that a platform that's exposed to the penalties under 912(2)(b)?
Madam President, if they are operating an illegal online casino-style game, yes, it's not legal in New York.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, Madam President.
Sponsor yield.
Has the fiscal note quantified potential job or investment losses if legitimate promotional tools migrate to friendlier jurisdictions?
Madam President, that's not anticipated to occur under this, no.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Yield.
Yes, Madam President.
Sponsor yield.
Thank you, Senator. So my question also, how are we going to track down companies that are promoting online casinos if they are not within New York? Well, how is our jurisdiction going to get to the people that are putting something on my phone or your phone here physically in New York and they're out of New York State?
Yeah, Madam President, we do that already. We monitor already what is online illegal activity. So if this is an online illegal casino-type game, then that's what we already do. We already monitor it, Madam Leader. Madam President.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
You continue to yield.
Yes, Madam
Sponsor yield.
So admittedly, I haven't had a chance to really dive into this to great detail, but my understanding is that there's some conflicts between Section 912(2) and 3 regarding uncertainty about the true intended targets of the bill and its penalty provisions. And I'm wondering if you have any comment on the fact that, there might be some conflicts between those provisions.
Madam President, on our side, we do not think there's a conflict of all. I think it's rather clear what we're trying to intend. The intent of the bill is to eliminate illegal gaming activity online.
Through you, Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
You continue to
Madam
yield.
President.
Sponsor yields.
And just one last question. Is there anything here that will protect minors from getting access to online gaming?
Madam President, through you, when we make it illegal through this bill and it gets passed, the answer is yes. That's the whole real push here. These online sites, these online illegal sites target minors. With a click of a button, you're 21. And it's wrong. There is no checking of age on most of these sites. So you want to talk about a site that targets minors, that's exactly what this bill is going to do. And until we regulate it in New York, it's going to continue to happen and proliferate. So this bill actually addresses that whole issue about, are we allowing minors to game illegally and entice them to game? That's what this bill addresses.
Thank you, Madam President, on the bill.
Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick on the bill.
Thank you, Senator Addabbo, for answering my questions. I certainly applaud the intent that we are trying to control gaming, make sure that it doesn't fall into the hands of minors, because we certainly know that what goes on our phones is quite aggressive when it comes to getting to our minors. I do have some concerns about the responsibility that you are putting on financial institutions, because I think it is a little unclear as to what their responsibility is, and I'm hoping that we can work on clarifying that in the future. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Rhodes, why do you rise?
I was hoping that my good friend Senator Addabbo may yield to a couple of questions.
Senator Addabbo, do you yield?
Madam President.
Senator yields.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President, what exactly, I'll admittedly am not as familiar with online gaming as some may be. Can you please explain to me what counts as what is a dual currency system?
Currency, there'll be gold coins and there'll be sweepstake coins. And that's what they use to entice you to play. You think you're playing and you're actually gaining these coins, but in the end, these coins equate to cash prizes, which makes it, again, illegal.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, Madam President.
Sponsor yield.
So I know that you've already said that games like Starbucks, I have the Starbucks app, and they will offer their spin the wheel games so that you can actually win a free coffee or a free breakfast sandwich or something like that. Those aren't included in this bill, correct?
You, Madam President, correct.
And will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, Madam
Sponsor
President.
yields.
I was listening intently to Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick's questioning and your answers, and there seemed to be an inconsistency with respect to to some of the language that's contained in the bill. With respect to online payment processors specifically, you use the term knowingly in terms of when they would be violating Section 912. However, Section 912 specifically states it uses the term support the operation. It doesn't use the term knowingly support the operation. Is this a knowing standard? And if so, where is intent included in the statute? Because it doesn't seem to have that in the language.
Through you, Madam President, there is an overlying federal law regarding what is illegal, and they would have to adhere to the federal law at that level.
Sponsor, continue to yield.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, Madam
Sponsor
President.
yields.
Well, since you use very specific terminology in Section 912(2)B, which says that a payment processor would be violating the statute if they support the operation, conduct, or promote sweepstakes games within the state of New York. So how does that language reconcile with federal law that you're saying is controlling? And if federal law is controlling, what's the purpose of the statute?
Through you, Madam President, actually the federal law does say that if you're doing illegal gaming activity under federal or state law, that is stated in the federal law, then you would be obviously knowing about the illegal activity in New York State.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Yes,
Do you
Madam
continue to
President.
yield? The sponsor yields.
If I understand the last answer correctly, is that if you were violating federal or state law, you would knowingly be in violation. I didn't really understand the last response. What I'm trying to get to is, under federal law, if federal law regulates this area, what is the purpose of the state law provision? And then I'll have a follow-up question to that.
President, the federal law refers to both federal law and state law when it comes to gaming issues. That's why, again, we feel it's in our jurisdiction to address this illegal activity, illegal gaming activity in New York State.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to
Yes,
yield? The
Madam
sponsor
President.
yields.
So then I'll switch to what the meaning here of the state law that's proposed. When you say that a payment processor, geolocation provider, gaming content supplier, platform provider, or media affiliate would be guilty if they support the operation, conduct, or promote sweepstakes games within the state of New York, what does that mean in the context of your earlier statement that they have to knowingly do so?
They provide a service in which right now they are thinking they have a loophole with the dual currency, through you, Madam President, that they have a loophole through the dual currency. But if they now knowingly that they have an illegal activity in New York State after this bill, then the bottom line is we would obviously have the opportunity to find them and hopefully eliminate them in New York State.
Sponsor, continue to yield.
Do you
Yes, Madam
continue to yield? The sponsor yields.
What sorts of, when you say knowingly, how do you qualify that? In other words, what types of activity, what types of information would they have to have in order for it to be determined that they knew that their client was actually engaging in this type of activity?
Through you, Madam President, the federal law that I referred to, that both states, federal law and state law, has a safe harbor language in there to basically lay out what is knowingly.
And will the sponsor continue to yield?
Continue
Yes,
to yield?
Madam
The
President.
sponsor yields.
Where in the state law does it refer to those criteria?
Madam President, through you, it's on the federal law that it refers to federal and state law.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you
Yes, Madam
continue to
President.
yield? Sponsor yields.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't mean to be obtuse on this, but we're passing a state statute today. Does the statute refer to the criteria that are laid out in federal law anywhere so that there's some guidance as to how these payment processors or geolocation providers can actually be in compliance with state law?
Madam President, again, we don't have to lay that out. If it's laid out under federal law, we don't have to lay that out. And the federal law is giving us the opportunity as a state to regulate it in New York, in this case, ban it, the illegal activity. So we don't have to lay it out if it's already laid out in the federal law.
Thank you for that response. Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to
Madam
yield?
President.
Sponsor yields.
The legislation indicates that the Gaming Commission can decide when a simple digital spin the wheel or bracket style predictor crosses the line. How exactly will the commission engage in this type of rulemaking?
Obviously, the Gaming Commission in the business of regulating gaming in New York, they do have, obviously, the means and the wherewithal to regulate this kind of illegal activity or identify this illegal activity in New York.
And do we know what the evidentiary threshold is going to be? Or is that the same federal? Oh, will the sponsor yield? Sorry.
Yes. The sponsor continue to yield? Sponsor yield.
Do we know what the evidentiary threshold is going to be for a violation of state law, or is that the same criteria in the federal law that you indicated?
Once again, Madam President, through you, once again, we have not legalized online casino games in New York. Once you do that and you're allowing people to win money off of it, it's illegal. So.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Yes,
You continue to yield, the sponsor yield.
I understand that. I'm referring specifically to not the ones that are actually providing the games, but the ones that are processing the payments, right? What will the evidentiary threshold be to determine whether or not there was a violation by those actors? Not the ones that are engaging in it directly, but the ones that are knowingly supporting that activity by processing payments.
Madam President, through you, again, and looking at the federal law, the safe harbor listings that are what is actually the activity that their responsibility, it's listed there. So it's going to be under federal law at that point.
Okay. Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue
Yes,
to
Madam
yield?
President.
Sponsor yield.
At some future date, if this does pass today, would the sponsor consider actually spelling those out in the statute so that it's clear?
Madam President, if it's listed already under federal law, I don't see the reasoning why it's our responsibility to do that, Madam President.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, Madam
The
President.
sponsor yield.
But is there any reference in this statute to the federal law at all?
Madam President, through you, there's no reason to list it if it's already existing federal law.
Thank you, Senator Addabbo. I appreciate it. I'm going to speak briefly on the bill, if that's okay.
Senator Rhodes on the bill.
Yeah, I certainly understand and I applaud the idea behind the bill in chief. Online gaming is certainly something that's not permitted in the state of New York. We certainly don't want that to fall into the wrong hands. You know, I am a little curious as to why we didn't try to take a more targeted approach, specifically at those bad actors that are engaging in this, and why we've included payment processors, geolocation providers, who we're now all of a sudden putting the burden on them to make a determination as to what activity is or isn't illegal that's being done by third parties that they happen to service. I just am also concerned that it's not clear as to what constitutes a violation. You know, I know Senator Addabbo was kind enough to refer to federal statute, but in looking at a state statute and whether or not there's a violation of a state statute, if I'm doing business in the state of New York, I want to know, how can I avoid violating state law? But if the criteria on how I can avoid violating state law aren't listed in the state statute, I might not know to look at the federal statute. I'm not involved in gaming. Why would I look at the federal gaming statute if I'm an online payment processor? It just seems as though, even though we're well-intentioned, this constitutes a bit of an overreach, and I just wish there was more clarity in the bill. But I thank you for your indulgence, Madam President.
Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 3, this action will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris Kruger, Ort, Saul Cousins White.
Senator Addabbo to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank my colleagues. Sit down. I want to thank my colleagues for their support here, and I do appreciate the dialogue with my friends on the other side. You know, we have an opportunity here. Since the state has not legalized online gaming yet, Senator Kruger, the bottom line is this. Without doing it, what happens is we lose not only significant sustainable revenue, but we lose the opportunity of helping people with a problem gaming addiction. These sweepstakes casinos, and why we should feel proud of what we do today, have been targeting minors, have been allowing people to game illegally. And we're taking a good step to avoid that. You know, New York is surrounded by other states that have online gaming, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. We lose money to them. But more importantly, we lose money to an illegal activity. We lose money to an online shadow, business in the shadow that we don't know. It's an illegal market that's really doing very well. And now we're trying to put a little light on that illegal market. And I think that's a great step we take. I appreciate the efforts of this body. I appreciate the efforts of the Attorney General's office. I appreciate the efforts of the Gaming Commission, our leader, for allowing this to come forward. Because until we legalize online gaming in New York, we do not want the illegal market to expand, to grow, to target minors, to target those who have a problem. The fines that will be issued through this bill, we should know, those fines that are collected go right to problem gaming programs. So we are going to be still helping people even more so with a gaming addiction. Madam President, I thank you so much, and I'll be voting yes on the bill.
Senator Addabbo to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Krueger to explain your vote.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I am voting yes for this bill, but I appreciate the debate and my colleague's presentation